Hi, everybody. My name is Richard Roberts. I'm the resident dramaturg at the IRT. Welcome to our pre-show chat for Tuesdays with Morrie. I hope you've seen the play and our streaming version of it, but if you haven't, we've just extended that stream through February 28th.
Oh,
So you have lots of opportunities to see it. I'm here with our wonderful cast, Henry Woronicz, who played Morrie, and Ryan Artzberger, who played Mitch Albom, who wrote the famous book, Tuesdays with Morrie. And I want to start off by asking you two gentlemen about the book. What did you think about the book when you read it?
I loved the book. I thought it was it's a very sweet read, and it was interesting to then subsequently work on the play. And I read the book after talking with the IRT about the role, and then I read it before I read the play, so it was fun to kind of go back and see how they had to make the play more dramatic and include both characters. There's a certain quality of a book that Morrie comes across, just as this incredibly wise, wonderful old man who's kind of complete in the book, as Mitch is kind of telling the story about him. It's I don't want to say he has no progression in the book, because it's obviously his disease progresses and he has to deal with that. But you see that kind of through Mitch's eyes. And in the play, working on the character in the play, I have to find that through Morrie's experience. And so that was an interesting observation between the two pieces of material.
He's presented very much as a hero in the book, and in the play, he has to be a bit more of a human.
Yeah. In the book, he's kind of done. He's set, and he's got all this stuff to impart. And Mitch talks about his own experiences and hearing it and going on. And at least that's how I remember it.
What about you, Ryan? What did the book do for you?
I would echo a little bit about what Henry said, is that, while it's sweet and it has, wisdom that we can all use in our own lives to make our lives better and make us better as human beings, it does, from a character standpoint, he seems almost flat. Like he doesn't have any growth to do in the midst of his learning, in the midst of his journey to the end of his life. So, and I would say that for me, the first time I read it, I was preparing for the first time I did the show. And when was that? 2008, 2007.
Yeah. Ryan played this role last time we did the play in 2007, for those of you who don't know.
And I was in a not a place to receive the sweetness. So I kind of felt like the book was like, ugh, but I read it out of duty. And then I think this is maybe a little unnecessary comparison, but I like the play better because the two people are people getting things from each other, needing things from each other.
Yeah.
Whereas that need is one-sided in the book.
Yeah. To be fair to Mr. Albom, I don't think the book is intended as much of a story as a sort of a way to get Morrie's philosophy out there.
Yeah.
And whereas when you write a play, you have to have a story.
Yeah.
I like a story in a play.
Yeah, it's kind of a self-help book in a way,
Yeah, I think exactly that's what I think about it. Yeah, that's good. Henry, there's lots and lots of video of Morrie. Did you watch any of that as you were prepping? What did you learn from that?
I did. I watched it. I don't think I watched all of it, but you can find chunks of it on YouTube, and you can kind of piece together, oh, this is from the first one, this is from the second one, depending on what Morrie's condition is. And it was helpful in terms of, we didn't want to, we talked about this early in rehearsal, we didn't want to get into any kind of imitation of the guy. And I think in the play, I think I probably come across as a little more Jewish than he does in real life, because I think I maybe had a little more accent than he does, but it's there in Morrie, but it's more of his spirit. And there's a certain twinkle in his eye, and there's a certain determination about what he's going through, and you can see the teacher in him. When he's talking to Koppel about he's giving him advice and information, and he's repeating something again, so Coppola will listen to it. So I found the watching his essence and his he often did these things with his eyebrows, that he would kind of raise his eyebrows in kind of wonderment all the time, and I found that kind of a gesture I could play with in terms of reminding me about that sense of wonder. And as Ben Hanna and I talked about, the director and I talked about, trying to make him find places within the script that he is that he does grow and he has self-evaluation and self-acknowledgement of things. That was helpful in that regard, watching Morrie in actual life, the way Mitch would have seen him on TV one night. This is what happened. So in his real life, watching that energy in him was very helpful.
Ryan, what was it like doing the play for a second time? How was it different and how was it similar?
There were technical differences, chiefly that in the first production, Morrie, we did it in the upper stage. So in order to shift how the scene was perceived, Morrie, once he got in the chair, he never got out, and I moved the chair. So I had to learn my blocking and his blocking. And a less technical difference is an intangible difference, is like Henry and I just have a chemistry. We just have we have a rapport, and we have there's a warmth between us and connection. And I just didn't have that with the former, and that might have been about where I was in my life. I wasn't ready to be truly vulnerable to somebody in that way, or I don't know. But the connection was like 1,000 times deeper in this.
Oh, that really shows on the screen too, between the two of you. Yeah. 2007. So that was 14 years ago. That's a long time to go between playing the same role again. So you're a whole different person now.
Yeah. Well, maybe not whole, but I mean, I think that's part of the thing, is that like with Christmas Carol, each year there's ways in which I can try to remove the Scrooge in me, or I previously could have tried to remove the Scrooge in me, but apparently there's still too much in there. Anyway, the current me has many lessons to learn from Morrie. Maybe fewer than the 2007 me, but still.
That's a great way to put it. Henry, obviously Morrie has ALS. What kind of research did you do? How did you learn about how to portray someone with ALS?
Well, we all talked on a Zoom call with, I don't remember the physician's name now, but he's
Dr. Pescuzzi.
Yes, Dr. Pescuzzi, and he's
from
the head
IU.
Of the ALS Center, or something,
Right.
a research center at IU. So he was very, very helpful. I mean, I looked at several videos of people with ALS, and it was most of the ones I came across, people had real trouble talking, and that wasn't going to work for the play. I mean, until maybe the very end, and it only manifested itself, I think, in the tone of Morrie's voice. For me, it became kind of higher and thinner and less strong. But and a lot of the, most of the videos you see of people with ALS are kind of later in the process. So that was helpful to some degree. But as the Dr. Pescuzzi related to us, it affects everybody somewhat differently. Some people lose their speech right away. Some people, it comes in the hands first, and it's a shaking like Parkinson a little bit. Some people, it starts in the legs. And with Morrie, it seemed to start in the legs, from what we hear in the script, and then watching him on the videos that I saw. So that was really helpful. And we tried to, honor those ideas as best we could in the script. But sometimes, there's a scene, like this was always the challenge for me, because there's a scene early on where he's trying to eat something, and it says his hands shake and he can't quite grab the spoon. But then a couple scenes later, Mitch is saying goodbye to me, and I grab his arm and say, put on the record player. And they're contradictory actions in my brain if the disease is progressing in a certain way. if I haven't been able to feed myself very well, how can I grab his arm? But that's the theater, and so I tried to make that work as best we can and make it a smaller action where I grab his arm, and so we find the fidelity to that as best we can. But it was, it's all, it comes back to how we can best use it in the text. But I did, listen to Dr. Picciuzzi was very, very helpful in some of the videos.
Great. Ryan, what kind of research did you do about Mitch? He's quite a famous person in his own right.
Yeah, similar to what Henry said, I didn't want it to be, I'm going to try to do my best Mitch album,
Right.
So I watched like a TED Talk kind of thing. I don't think it's actually TED, but and I sort of got a sense of how he lived in his body, and I was like, he seems still even guarded a little bit, like he's trying to present something. But there was just a little hint of East Coast, and he's from Passaic, New Jersey. So that was my inroad, was like protection. I mean, obviously that like his armor is the process of the play is removing his armor. And so I just kind of used like East Coast flavor in my attitude and in my my very slight dialect, I guess, to inform the kind of machismo that he needs to remove from his life.
Yeah, that's interesting. Both of you, what's it like to go through what is basically a pretty standard theatrical rehearsal process and then have only one performance? What was that like?
Go on, Ryan.
It was so weird. It was so weird. It was so, because, and the sad thing about it is I would be able to learn so much more from interaction with Henry for, I guess it would be like 27 more shows maybe if we had been able to do it. Me too, I missed out on that opportunity to be able to be like, what can we find when we're truly relaxed and not worrying about it? And but also the bigger thing, which maybe I'm skipping subjects here, but the lack of interaction with an audience in a show like this is really palpable. Like
you spend so much of the show talking directly to the audience.
Yeah. And so getting zero back, not even eye contact, camera contact is just a weird thing. So here's hoping we can open the theaters back up sooner.
It was strange. I mean, we're following in the rehearsal process COVID protocols. So everybody in that zone where we're working, recreating the play, it's only 5 of us, Ryan and I and Ben Hanna, the director, and Nathan and Becky, the stage management group. We're getting tested twice a week, and we're performing, we're rehearsing with masks on. Ryan and I eventually we connected with each other. Said, okay, we got to take the masks off so I can see what's going on in your mouth, because the face, the lower half of the face is very expressive, and it's important. That's what's going on.
Yeah.
But I agree, I second what Ryan said about the audience, because this is a play that on many levels could be considered it's a play about death and dying, and in spite of its lightness and spirit to it, it's a dark subject. So the humor in it is important, and the humor that we would bounce off the audience, we're bouncing it off each other. We're fine. We're being good audience for each other as best we can, but getting that laugh from the audience on, I used to be agnostic. Now I'm not so sure. I mean, that would have been a nice laugh and just kind of make you go, oh, okay, we still got them, kind of thing. But so that was difficult. It was difficult. It was weird.
Yeah.
And opening and closing in one night. It was strange, and
we miss it. What sort of adjustments do you make, if any, for the camera, or were you just doing the play in the space and letting the camera do its thing?
I think I think we talked about that early on a little bit, and periodically in rehearsal, that we weren't doing a film or television, that we were supposed to be presenting a play in a theater, and we were capturing it on video with multiple cameras. So there was an opportunity to get close to either of us at certain points. But I think we wanted to, and this I think was the theater's intention, that we wanted to present it as a play in the theater, and not a TV drama or a movie of any kind. And so um, I think that kind of just dictated where we went with it.
Mhm. Yeah, there wasn't a aesthetic shift, a stylistic shift to camera, but there were sometimes just technically you have to stay open when you're in the scene for that far over stage right. You have to make sure you cheat for the camera that's stage left.
Yeah, we would find, Ryan and I would find our theater instincts wanting to open a certain way because the audience is over there as well. And Ben would remind us that no, we don't need you to open to that group because we're only going to get it from this shot over here or whatever it might be. So that was something we learned just to keep in mind.
Yeah. Henry, you've done a lot of TV work. How does this process compare to that, or does it?
Well, it doesn't really, because we're still doing a play. We're in the theater doing that. It does. On the other hand, it does in some ways because when I was in LA a number of years ago, I did, I don't know, a couple dozen things on television. And I did some in New York when I lived closer there. And doing a sitcom, which was filmed in like 5 days generally, and you film it in sequence. It's like doing a little summer stock. It's like a 1 week and you're done. And you film it generally, it has been the case for a while. They film in front of a live audience. So you do have an audience that you're playing with. And I got to do a couple with, I did a couple Seinfelds. I did a Third Rock from the Sun with John Lithgow, and if you're lucky, you run into some really good stage actors that are working on television. So there's a similarity there. The thing that's most similar with this project to me was the day we filmed, because I remember very distinctly the first time I ever did a legitimate TV show and filmed it. When you did your scene and then they got to cut, we're moving on. Part of your brain goes, that's it. That's the only chance I get to do it. I don't get to do it tomorrow night again. I don't get to do it better next time. And I remember feeling that for like the first, Ryan and I talked about this a little bit after we taped it, that first 15 minutes of the taping, my brain was doing that a little bit, going, oh, that's it. Oh, that's it. I could have done that better. I could have done that better. Because you realize it's being captured and that's it. That's the only chance you get to it. So that was a similarity there in terms of the final step of the process.
Ryan, we talked a little bit earlier about direct-to-rest with an audience, and we talked about the issue of not having an audience there. But you've done a ton of shows where you have a direct address with the audience. How is that different from a scene with another actor on stage?
I guess the difference is you're trying to make a contract when you're making when you're doing direct address. You're trying to say, okay, this is going to be our relationship. We can connect on this level. Like we're just in a room together having a chat. You don't get to chat back right now, but and you don't know what you're going to get while you're trying to make that contract. You might get someone who's yawning. You might get someone who's checking their phone. You might get someone who's
asleep,
chastising their husband for looking at his phone, asleep. Yeah. So, but it's I don't mean to devalue it. I mean, it can be really gratifying when and usually what happens, especially with a play like this, is that the contract gets deeper the longer the evening goes on. And when you return to the contract in a different tone, they're with you on a deeper level. And so that's another thing that was really missed with this, like that feeling of, you just saw me go through that, huh? And I'm going to tell you about this next stage of it, and
well, we had that experience out there just days later than you.
Yeah.
Henry, as the play moves along, obviously Morrie's ALS progresses, which gives you as an actor less and less and less that you could do physically. By the end of the play, you can't really do anything except, like you said, raise your eyebrows. Yeah. how's that as a technical challenge to work with?
It's wonderful. I've always really relished working physically as an actor. If you're playing Richard III, which I've done a couple times, I've had the pleasure of doing that a couple times, or a character that needs some kind of physicality. And I've when I was young in college, I studied a lot of mime, and so I did a bunch of work with the body that way. And I've always liked movement. I've always enjoyed, I've done, most of my career has been around Shakespeare, so I've done a lot of stage combat, which I have really enjoyed the choreography of that. And I admit, even in high school, college, but I did some musicals which had to do dance. You had to dance and move. So I've always liked the physical embracing of a character. So this was something fun to do. I mean, it sounds weird to be fun to do, but pretending to have ALS, but and it's a very specific track that you kind of, and the text also helps that. So you can, you can follow where he goes in the text. So there's a very specific guide to it in terms of what he does. If you're playing Richard III, you get to decide where your hump is, what your leg is like, what's going on with your arms, which side, you get to kind of play with those things. It's not told you in the script other than some descriptions about what people say about him or any kind of physical character like that. I find them a great joy to work on, and a wonderful challenge for an actor, and also very satisfying,
Cool. Ryan, your character of Mitch, you talked earlier about the play is about him removing his layers of armor. Mitch goes through a tremendous inner transformation in the play, but it's very subtle what he does, how he changes physically. And it's sort of about how he interacts with Morrie is something that I noticed as I was watching the play. How did you think about making sure the audience was going on that journey with you?
Well, it was a process of, clearly, when in the scenes, in the intro, the kind of prologue part, he's unarmored. In the college, his interaction with Morrie is totally free. And then, life happens to him and tragedy happens to him, and the armor goes up, and his career requires a kind of tough guy exterior to help him through. And so the challenge was tracking where the armor is on, how does it get put on, and how does it come off, and making sure that it didn't come off too quickly. Like, we get in the room, I get into Morrie's house, and then we're just like old pals again, and no armor anymore. That was kind of the early rehearsal challenges. And Ben kind of helped me gauge and refine and avoid pitfalls.
Yeah. Ben Hanna, the director of the show.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see how that would be a challenge to try to not let it go too far too fast, because you have a long play, not a long play, but the whole play to get through. And the last scenes are particularly moving because you really see him reach out to Morrie in ways that he hasn't before. It's lovely.
Yeah.
One last question for you both. Morrie calls himself a teacher to the last. What has Morrie taught you?
I think it's for me, it's been more about kind of reinforcing things. I'm a Buddhist with a small b, so a lot of these things kind of have resonated with me for a long time. And I do like the little expression about the bird on the shoulder, although I have not come across that idea in Buddhist writing, but I'm sure it's in there somewhere. Probably the Tibetans doing things with birds all the time, but it's kind of, it reinforces the preciousness of life. One of the lines that really would always resonate with me, and it took a little while to find it, but it was the line where he says, the wise and wonderful things you say at the end are the things you should say all your life. And I've come to believe that in my own life, that you should be kind to people and say nice things and compliment. Don't never be afraid to say I love you or I had a good time or whatever, particularly in the intimate relationships in your life. You don't go to bed angry, you don't leave the house angry, you don't do any of those things, because you never know what fast moving omnibus might be down the road.
Right.
something.
Right.
So it's a reinforcement of a lot of things that in my own life, in my own sense of, as Ryan says, becoming a different person over many years, and having some tragedy and loss and triumph in one's life, it puts things in a perspective. So it's a reinforcement of a lot of those things.
Yeah. Ryan?
I would say for me, because Henry stole my little bird thing, which I was going to say.
You can use that. You can use that.
I mean, everyone can use the little bird thing.
The little bird.
But another layer is the sense that Mitch has at the end. Why do you give a blank about me, Morrie? And he said, you have the light inside you, because I heard that about someone else. And then he admits that it was about him. And it says to Mitch, you're never a lost cause. You can always better yourself. You can always take these lessons and go home tonight and be nicer to your kids, or be kinder to the person that you almost get into an accident with at the, whatever. So just the sense of, we're not done. Nobody's done. You can always, there's a way to improve yourself, and there is a light in all of us.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful thought. Thank you very much. Thank you, both of you, so much for joining us today. Thank you for a beautiful show. And for those of you out there, if you haven't seen it yet, through February 28th, streaming at the IRT, Tuesdays with Morrie, with Henry Woronicz and Ryan Artzberger. Thank you both very much. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.